welcome everyone. Welcome to our event. It's a great pleasure to see all of you. The great interest from a wide spectrum of audience towards the Turkic states. It's a great pleasure for me myself, a person from Azerbaijan, now currently working in Hungary in Danube Institute, to see such great interest. And the Danube Institute itself has been always connected more with the Western world, but I'm very glad to see the greater interest towards the Turkic world as well. And now we are more and more positioning ourselves as the bridging link between the West, US and European Union with the Turkic world, and we are very happy to take this role. Today we will have very distinguished keynote speakers, and the first one of them is the President of Danube Institute, Mr. John O'Sullivan. Please.
Good morning. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may I offer you a very warm welcome from the Danube Institute. We're delighted to have you for us today for what promises to be a timely and stimulating discussion. I'd like to begin by extending a special welcome to His Excellency Ambassador Geopolitical Amiraliev, the Secretary General of the Organization of Turkic States, to Mr. Martin Argodi, Deputy State Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister's Political Director here in Hungary, and Robert Palladino, the United States Chargé d'Affaires. We're all honored by your presence and grateful for your participation. As we look around the world today, it's clear we're living through an era of profound change, one marked by new alignments, emerging powers, and a gradual but undeniable shift away from the recent century of post-Cold War order, half-century. The recent election of Donald Trump in the United States signals, again, that we are entering a period of reevaluation and strategic recalibration across the world's major powers. The assumptions that have shaped international relations since the end of the Cold War of globalization, Western-led institutions, unchallenged ideas of liberal democracy are now being brought under question, and new centers of influence are asserting themselves. In this changing environment, the Organization of Turkic States is emerging as an increasingly important actor, a regional bloc, but one whose influence stretches from the Caucasus through Central Asia and beyond. Originally a cultural forum, the OTS has matured into a serious platform for political dialogue, economic cooperation, and strategic coordination. Its role is set to grow still further in the new multipolar world now taking shape, a world where regional partnerships, cultural ties, and pragmatic alliances will matter more and more. Hungary, too, finds itself playing a unique and important role here, not only as an observer within the OTS because of its history with that world, but also as a strategic bridge between East and West, North and South. Our discussions today will explore how Hungary, together with its partners in the Turkic world, can help to shape a more stable, a more prosperous, and a more interconnected Eurasia. We're joined by a distinguished group of speakers and panelists, and I'm now happy to hand over to them to guide us through these vital themes. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for this speech, dear Mr. John O'Sullivan. Indeed, Hungary has been positioning itself as the bridge state between the Turkic world and the Western world itself. And Hungary, as you know, is already the priority strategic partner of Turkey, is the enhanced strategic partner of Azerbaijan and Kyrgyzstan. It's the currently strategic, but I expect very soon will be raised also to enhanced strategic partnership with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan as well. Now I would like to give the floor, the stage to His Excellency Ambassador, Secretary General of the Organization of Turkic States, Kubanычbek Omuraliyev. Please.
First of all, it's good morning, very good morning to everyone. Thank you very much, John, for very good words about our organization. Excellencies, distinguished participants, and ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be with you this morning at the DUNUP Institute, a forum known as for its intellectual integrity and the commitment to shaping meaningful dialogue on the key issues of our time. Let me begin by expressing my gratitude to organizers for DUNUP Institute for initiating this important discussion on the evolving role in Hungary and the Organization of Turkic States in the new and the emerging world order. We are living through an era of accelerating change. The tectonic plates of geopolitical are shifting. The rise of multipolarity in disruptions in the global supply chain, energy transformation, and the new security architectures are compelling all of us, governments, organizations, and the citizens alike, to rethink how we relate to one another in the 21st century. In this context, the Organization of Turkic States stands a platform not only for cooperation, but for crafting a collective voice rooted in shared values, identity, and aspirations. The Organization of Turkic States that serves as purpose-driven platform designed to implement concrete projects that foster socio-economic growth and generate greater benefits for its members and observers. As a unique regional intergovernmental organization, OTS develops programs and the project in the more than 35 areas, ranging from politics, economy, energy, and the transportation, tourism, education, space, environment, culture, youth sports, and beyond. OTS is relatively young, establishing in 2009 by the Nakhchivan Agreement. The bonds between the Turkic states are deeply rooted in centuries of shared culture, tradition, and the language. This historical connection from the solid foundation on which our organization is built. Hungary's role in this shifting landscape is particularly notable. Its rich historical legacy are crossroads of civilization and its modern geopolitical orientation. Hungary serves as bridge between East and the West, between tradition and innovation, and between EU and the emerging Eurasian powers. Hungary's Eastern opening strategy, initiated in 2010, I believe, is marked a significant turning point in the country's foreign policy. As Prime Minister Orban stated, we sail under a Western flag, but the wind blows from the east. This phrase eloquently captures a deeper reality of Hungarians' pragmatic engagement with the rising East and this commitment to fostering multi-vector diplomacy in the rapidly evolving world. This strategy is not only merely symbolic, it is producing tangible results. Hungary has signed a strategic partnership agreement with each of the member states of the Organization of Turkic States. These agreements represent more than diplomatic protocol. They are a testament to Hungary's enduring interest in long-term multidimensional collaboration with Turkic world. I would like to note that the remarkably short span of time, Hungary and the member states reciprocally has opened embassies demonstrating their commitment to deepening bilateral ties. Currently, with the rapid advancement of trade between Hungary and the OTS countries, the annual trade reached almost to $6 billion in a short period of time. Moreover, Hungary continues to play an active role within the OTS framework. Just during this month, it successfully organized 3 events consecutively. Informal meeting was head of custom administration just 10 days ago here in Budapest, and before yesterday and yesterday we held Hungarian Turkic Summit on culture, innovation and the higher education, and of the head of competition authorities of OTS. Most notably, I hope everybody already is knowledge, is on May 21st, after almost a month, making the first time such informal summit of OTS in Budapest. This is also the first time it will be held our summit in our observer state. So, moreover, Hungary is continuing to play an active role within the OTS framework. Additionally, I would like to emphasize this importance of the roadmap signed between Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Trade and the OTS Secretariat during the Hungary's EU presidency last May, almost 1 year ago. These documents lay the groundwork for deepened cooperation across strategic sectors and reflect our mutual vision for partnership and development. The historical and the cultural ties between Hungary and the Turkic world are both deep and enduring. Hungary's ancient connection with the Kipchaks and the legacy of Attila and the Hun are not only part of regional folklore, but serve as common historical trait linking our peoples. It is no coincidence that many words in the Hungarian language echo those found across. Turkic language is reflecting centuries of cultural interaction. Even as one walks to the heart of Budapest, one can observe monuments and the statues of various that strongly resemble those found in Central Asia, a visual reminder of our shared nomadic heritage, values of courage, and the reverence for history. This cultural interaction forms the foundation of mutual respect and understanding that we continue to build upon today. As Secretary General, I have witnessed first then the growing intensity and the quality of relation between Hungary and our member states. Central Asia, with its pressing environmental challenges, sees Hungary as valued partner of sustainable farming and the water governance. The Drought Prevention Institute of the OTS initiated and by funding Hungarian governments are laying the foundation for enhanced strategic cooperation in food security, water management, and irrigation technologies. The OTS pays special attention to cultural diplomacy, and Hungary plays a leading role in this sphere. Through the Stipendium Hungarian Scholarship Program, more than 5,000 students from OTS member states are pursuing degrees in Hungarian universities. These young people are becoming ambassadors of understanding, respect, and the cooperation across our region. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, the Turkic region home to 175 million people and covering 4.5 million square kilometers offer tremendous opportunities for trade and investment. In 2024, our combined GDP exceed $2.1 trillion, making this a large and growing market. According to the result also for 2024, OTS countries' combined trade turnover was $1.1 trillion. Our geography is our strength, and we are the heart of Eurasia. The revival of the Silk Road through initiatives such as the Trans-Caspian International Transport Road and the Middle Corridor has made of OTS region a vital conduit for trade between Asia and Europe. Hungary's involvement of these roads is both welcome and strategic. As the global economy increasingly pivots toward connectivity and resilience, the Turkic world working hand in hand with partners like Hungary can offer solutions that are inclusive, innovative, and sustainable. The Organization of Turkic States is not only about uniting government, but is also about united peoples. We are building a community of destiny on where dialogue triumphs over discord, cooperation replaces competition, and the solidarity guides our shared progress. Hungary's observer status within the OTS is not only a formality, it is a living partnership. Hungary brings to our platform European experience, institutional cooperation, and a strong vision for long-term engagement with Eurasia. In conclusion, we welcome this partnership, and we can see immense potential in expanding in further future of areas such as innovation, cybersecurity, environment, governance, and the digital transformation. I would like to express my sincerest again appreciation to Danube Institute for hosting today's program, and also I would like to thank to everyone to come too early to take part in this event. And today's program and institutions such as your play of critical role of generating through leadership and the fostering to kind conversation and the lead to actions. Let us continue to work together, Hungary and the Turkic state as bridges, as builders, and our believers as worlds that are more connected, more cooperative, and more compassionate. And thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you productive and successful meetings today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very informative and actually truly showing the growing strength of the Turkic states speech, Your Excellency Ambassador Omraliyev. It is truly inspiring to see how, well, most of the Turkic states, they became independent only 35 years ago. And the Organization of Turkic States indeed early on started as a cultural initiative, but now it truly becomes the reality of our region, of our vast, big region, which is very rich in its culture and very rich and growing in terms of its power, not only military, but also economic power, which is very important. And this is, of course, very attractive for the global actors. Including the US, of course. And hence, I would like to welcome the Charge d'Affaires of the US Embassy to Budapest, Mr. Robert Palladino. Please, I would like to see this.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jó reggelt kívánok. It's an honor to join you today for this timely and important discussion on the future of the Organization of Turkic States and Hungary's evolving role as a strategic connector between East and West. Let me begin by thanking His Excellency, Ambassador Kubanishbek Omuraliev, Secretary General of the Organization of Turkic States, for his leadership and for the thoughtful remarks that he shared this morning. I'm also grateful to Mr. John O'Sullivan, President of the Danube Institute, for hosting us and for inviting me. Mr. Ishtan Kiss, Executive Director, Dr. Kalkum Nicholson, Director of Research, and especially to Mr. Ibrahim Mamadov, whose efforts made this event possible. We're also joined today by Mr. Balázs Hendrik, Executive Director of the Representation Office of the Organization of Turkic States in Hungary, and Dr. Vasha Laszlo, Chief Advisor and Senior Research Fellow at the Hungarian Institute of International Affairs. Thank you both for contributing your expertise. The United States sees the growing influence of the Turkic world as a key strategic development. The Organization of Turkic States is emerging as a vital platform for economic cooperation, regional stability, cross-continental connectivity. Hungary's role as an observer state and as a trusted transatlantic ally is especially noteworthy. Through its eastern opening, Hungary is building real partnerships with key members of the Organization of Turkic States. That approach reflects a pragmatic foreign policy that aims to strengthen Hungary's ties without compromising its values or its sovereignty. President Trump's foreign policy puts America first. But let me be clear, America first does not mean America alone. The United States remains deeply engaged with its allies and partners, including in Europe and across the Turkic world, on the issues that matter most. Under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Rubio, the State Department and other parts of the U.S. government are advancing strong, fair, and reciprocal trade relationships that serve the interests of the American people. At the same time, we're unapologetically defending our national interests by increasing pressure on adversaries, confronting malign behavior, and standing firmly for our values on the global stage. We're also securing our borders and protecting our communities, taking decisive action to stop illegal immigration and crack down on the smuggling of fentanyl and other deadly narcotics. And as you're all no doubt tracking closely, the United States is working actively to promote a just and lasting peace between Russia and Ukraine. In short, President Trump and his team are restoring American leadership at home and abroad. That leadership rests on strength, principle, and partnership. The Trump administration believes in strong nations, not fragile dependencies. We believe in real partnerships, not lectures, not conditions, but respect. That's how we approach engagement in this region and how we will continue to build trusted relationships in the year ahead. As we approach the 250th anniversary of American independence, we're reminded that enduring partnerships are built on shared principles: sovereignty, freedom, and mutual respect. These are values that Americans and Hungarians have long fought to defend, whether in 1776 or 1956. We're proud to stand with friends who share those values, past, present, and future. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to today's discussion.
Thank you very much for the speech, dear Charles I Robert Palladino. That was also very inspiring to hear how US is genuinely taking its role as the global power and truly defending the global system and reaching the peace between the greater players, which wouldn't be resolved without the participation of US, of course. Thank you very much. Now we will go to the speech of Mr. Marton Ugrosti, the Deputy State Secretary in the Office of Prime Minister's Political Director in Hungary. Please.
Good morning. It's great to be back. Reminds me of my earlier life and the younger times, which are obviously gone. I'm happy to share a few thoughts with you when it comes to Hungary's role in the OTS and in the wider region. The centrality of that area that the Turkic states occupy today is often forgotten, even though it's always been in front and center of all the most important developments in the world. Whether we talk about the Silk Road, whether we talk about trade between Europe and Asia, whether we talk about traditional values, respect for family, and a sense of national belonging, the countries of the OTS have been always leading the way, despite the fact that occasionally they fell victim of great power politics. But now that all of these countries are independent again, we're proud and happy to restart that kind of cooperation that we had them during the last 1100 years. And we are very hopeful when we look to the future that what this relationship can bring not only to Hungary, but also to Europe and the members of the Organization of the Turkic States as well. And if you need a reminder that why this region is so important, you might rewind history back about 120 years to a book which was published by a British geographer under the title of The Geopolitical Pivot of History. And that basically tells you the story that Central Asia and the Caucasus and basically the area that the OTS covers today is the most important part of the world, because whoever controls this region controls the world. Of course, I'm simplifying a little bit here, so you should take this with a grain of salt. But the more important moral in that story is that even back then, even in the early 1900s, even the Brits have recognized the importance of the region and tried to find out a way that how they can influence the countries of this region back in those days. And the importance of the region hasn't changed a bit ever since. When we look about how the world is changing, what kind of uncertainties we will have to face, and how we can keep cooperation in a world which seems to be more and more fragmented, it becomes quite obvious that we cannot succeed without a much closer cooperation with the OTS and the countries which are part of this very good and very interesting organization. And that also underlines the importance of Hungarian foreign policy strategy, which is based on connectivity as we speak. And what could tell the story of connectivity more than reaching out to a part of the world which was so unreachable for a long time, opening up new opportunities, building on our historical ties, shared culture, our shared prospect of how we see the world developing, and at the same time respecting each other, just as everybody has highlighted before me, not lecturing but understanding, not lecturing but listening, and talking to each other on the eye level, which hasn't been a feature of international relations recently. Fortunately, that is changing. We've been in this game for at least 16 years. We welcome President Trump's administration back again in the White House, which is having the same approach. And we can only hope that the European Union will take a similar approach, even though these hopes seem to be a little bit unfounded at days, but we're working on it. So hopefully that's going to change as well. And what we see is that the OTS countries have a lot of opportunities, not only when it comes to business, not only when it comes to trade, not only when it comes to physical access to territories that we couldn't reach before, but also when it comes to well-trained people, also when it comes to people who believe in a sense of nationhood, also when it comes to people who believe that the family is the most important foundation of society, and also people who haven't forgotten where they came from, and they respect their own past, their traditions, and they're willing to keep these traditions into the future and beyond. Because this is not the narrative you've been seeing recently globally. And this is, if you ask me, part of the biggest struggles that we have today, that how we can keep our heritage, how we can keep our culture, our language, our traditions, our beliefs, despite of the enormous pressure that we face globally, both from the political and the business community, or at least certain parts of the political community. But politics is politics at the end of the day. So fighting is an integral part of that. We shouldn't be surprised about it. The point is rather that we can have a civilized debate and we can have debates which move us ahead. So if I look at why the OTS is so unique and why it has been so useful for Hungary for the last couple of years since we became observer members, I think it really comes down that this is a fit-for-purpose organization. And we are parts of many, many international organizations, but the problem with most of these organizations is that they're trying to enforce their worldview upon you. And the OTS is not like that. The OTS is based on respect. It's based on the motto of the European Union, if you will, that we are united in diversity, which the European Union often forgets. And it is also based on the recognition of each other's values, of each other's histories, and that we cannot become the same because we're different nations. It shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone. But despite of all these differences, despite of the history we had, and despite of the occasional differences that we had in the last several hundred years, we can still find common ground when we have to cooperate. We still find value in this network that we're building, the organization we've been building, and it's not a surprise that it has been evolving so steadily for the last almost 20 years. So what, as highlighted, what started out as something of a loose cultural cooperation has evolved to a much better, a much bigger, a much more organized international organization. And one can only wonder that where this road takes us in the future. And if we look at the need for economic cooperation, if we look at the need to unite the Turkic states, we see that maybe this institutionalization process will move ahead. And as the world is becoming more uncertain, the case for unilateral organizations like the OTS is growing stronger. What we see is that countries are trying to navigate a world which is much more uncertain than it used to be. They're trying to ask the right questions, and of course they're trying to find the right answers for that. But they're looking for solutions which are serving their national interest. And we shouldn't be surprised about it. I mean, nations are to serve their national interest, first of all. And any kind of a vehicle, any kind of an international organization, any kind of a format that can serve these goals will have an enormous right to survive and has an enormous usefulness, because if it can serve the national interest, then it will also justify the existence of these organizations. And it's going to be a truly bottom-up process in a way that how these organizations will function, how they're going to be structured, will be a result of the sum of all the national interests of its members and not the other way around, which once again underscores the importance of national sovereignty and once again underscores the importance of a cooperation which is based on respect and shared values and shared interests. So this kind of flexibility and resilience that the OTS has been showing for ever since its inauguration has been very instrumental for us when we were engaging our partners in Central Asia, the South Caucasus, and Turkey as well. And on that account, we are proud to be observer members of the OTS, and we will continue to contribute to the organization, despite the fact that we're not full members, and obviously we cannot really become full members because we're not in the region, but we are proud to serve as a bridge of the OTS and the individual OTS member states as well to Europe and beyond. And just as Sergei Palladino highlighted, this could open up new opportunities with the United States, this could open up new opportunities with the European Union, and even beyond that. And if I look at how the dynamics of Asia, and especially Central Asia, has been changing recently, and I think David's going to talk about this at length, so I'm not going to kill all his talking points, but we see that the importance of Central Asia, the Caspian, and the region where the OTS is located is going to become more and more important. We see growing uneasiness in the Middle East. It's an open question how long the Red Sea will be navigable. And we also see a conflict and a war in Ukraine, which has impeded overland access to Russian infrastructure. You have to replace these routes somehow. And this is where the OTS comes in. This is where the middle corridor comes in. This is when infrastructure comes in, and this is where connectivity comes in. How we can all combine these and how we can provide a mix which is beneficial for all of the participants and can provide real win-win opportunities for all of us is the million-dollar question. But we see initiatives emerging all over. We see direct flights resuming between Uzbekistan and Hungary, for example. We see the Stipendium Hungaricum program, which is bringing young students and young people all over the region. We see an increasing role of the OTS when it comes to facilitating higher education and other exchanges within the member states. We look at the free trade zone initiatives from Azerbaijan and beyond. We look at an ever closer cooperation in the Central Asian region, which unleashes the potential of this vast amount of land and a great amount of people. And how we're going to harness these energies is the question that the OTS is also addressing. And if I look at energies, I think I can be very hopeful when it comes to the future of the OTS as an organization and also the future of the individual states which make up the OTS at the end of the day. Because if I look at these countries, I see a lot of young people, I see entrepreneurship, I see a high standard of education, I see respect for history, I see respect for families, and I see an enormous amount of common sense which occasionally went missing in Europe in the last couple of years. So if we can harness this energy, if this energy can inspire and motivate us in the future, maybe we can also make Europe a better place at the end of the day, because all these things that the OTS and the countries of the OTS stand for are the ones that Europe used to stand for a very long time, but Europe forgot about these things recently, and now it's our job to bring all these back. A couple more words about Hungary, and I think nothing summarizes Hungary's position in the OTS better than the Prime Minister's one-liner that Hungary is the westernmost eastern nation, and this is not going to change, and many of the previous speakers have alluded to the ethnic and cultural ties we share with the nations of the OTS, and that is not going to change. We'll never forget where we came from. It's an integral part of our history, it's an integral part of our national identity, and no matter what, no matter who's going to occupy either of us, we will never forget about this relationship. And this offered us the opportunity to engage the countries of the region much earlier than everybody else. I do remember, and sorry for coming back to Azerbaijan again, but I do remember that when we started to engage President Aliyev and the Azeri government, we were criticized for that by our partners and in the European Union. Then came the war in Ukraine, and all of a sudden, everybody from Brussels went to Baku, and they were trying to score favors with President Aliyev. Obviously, you can judge the quality of the two respective relationships. One is that is based on momentary economic interest, and the other which is based on shared history, traditions, culture, mutual understanding, and respect. And you can also guess which relationship is going to be the more long-lasting one. So on that account, I think this approach really sums up our attitude towards all the countries in the region. We had excellent relationship with all of these countries, and I'm sorry for singling out Azerbaijan. I haven't sat here for a long time, so my apologies for that. But once again, it applies to all the countries: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, Turkey, and all the others too. And we are proud to have these relationships. And we are proud to be ahead of the curve when it comes to recognizing the importance of all these countries. And now we see results. When I look at investment, when I look at trade, when I look at the number of bright young people who decided to come to study in Hungary, I see results which are encouraging. And of course, facilitating ties between the business communities, getting more Hungarian companies to invest in the region, work on projects like the Drought Research Institute, are initiatives which will make this relationship long-lasting and useful for all of us. Because at the end of the day, it's really great to be part of international organizations, but if substantially there's no point, because there's no added value, these organizations do not serve any interest of the members. But once again, the OTS is different because it is addressing challenges that all of us are facing, and it is providing added value, not only to the individual bilateral relationships, but also the collective relationships we have within the organization. Looking ahead, and these will be my final points, first of all, I think the OTS and the countries, the member states as well, have what it takes to tackle the future, however uncertain it will become. And that is because all of these countries are based on common sense. They haven't forgot their past. They never forgot where they came from. They fought for their independence, which is really important because it gives you a very hard resolve when it comes to engaging other partners based on mutual respect and some kind of a self-assurance that you need in order to be successful in international relations. And if I look at the common sense policies and responses to all the different challenges that we see in the world, I do see the OTS as a very valuable platform. Whether it's the official part or the unofficial summit that Hungary is going to host in a few weeks, whether I look at the think tank cooperation, whether I look at the higher education cooperation, and so on and so forth, these all bring added value to the relationship. And this is what makes the OTS durable, and this is what makes the OTS successful. And that kind of a dynamic that I highlighted when I was alluding to the enormous amount of young and bright people that the region has also gives us hope that at least Hungarians who've been talking to our friends for a long time will have the right partners to talk to when it comes to resolving all the uncertainties and challenges that the world is facing today. And on our end, we are very much looking forward to that conversation, which is based on reality and not of wishful thinking. And I guess I'll just stop here. Thank you very much for coming. It's a great pleasure to see all of you, and it's a great pleasure to see many of you again. And we're very much looking forward to this event today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. Marton Ugrosti. Indeed, just as you mentioned, also in the Turkic states, just as Hungary values its independence, its culture, the importance of family as the main pillar of the society, Turkic states also value this at the core of our societies. We value our culture, our language, and the families. But also about the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship. I was actually myself, in past, I came as the Hungaricum student to Hungary, and one of the decisions why I decided to come to Hungary was that, well, I couldn't think of any other place where I will meet so many Turkic students, actually. So that was really fabulous, and that was a very good decision, honestly. That was a very good decision, because looking at quotas, there is so many Turkic students from all over the Turkic world. And thank you very much for Hungary for that. That's really great opportunity for us. Now I would like to introduce David Goldman, the Deputy Editor of Asia Times, the President of Macro Strategy LLC, Claremont Institute, Washington Fellow, Corvinus Institute for Advanced Studies Fellow. Please, the stage is yours.
It's a great honor to be here. I would like to thank John O'Sullivan and Isvan Kish of the Danube Institute for the opportunity to speak in such distinguished company on such a topic of such enormous importance. When Harold Mackinder spoke of the importance of the world island, I don't think he could have imagined how Central Asia has become the fulcrum of both economics and geopolitics in a way that I think none of us anticipated 20 years ago. We're all familiar with the World Bank and other studies of what the Middle Corridor will mean economically, but I don't want to dwell on that. Demographics isn't destiny, but it's the next closest thing. And the most remarkable fact of Central Asia is that it is demographically unique. It is not the only part of the world whose population is growing and is likely to continue to grow through the 21st century, but it's the only one with an educated population, stable governments, and economic potential independent of the factors which accompany high population growth, for example, in Pakistan or Africa. So as a source of labor and as a source of economic growth driven by the combination of demographics, governance, and education, Central Asia is entirely unique. Just to give you an example of what this means, I've taken the central forecast that the United Nations population prospects offer for Central Asia, Turkey, and Iran. We're looking at the population of working age 20 to 64. And at present, Central Asia has a much lower working age population than Turkey or Iran. But in the course of the century, the working age population of both Iran and Turkey will fall sharply because of low fertility. That's not a controversial statement. Both the governments of Turkey and Iran have spent the last 15 years warning about the impact of low fertility and trying to address it. I don't think the UN forecasts are at all out of line, but Central Asia, by the middle of the century, will have more working-age people than the combination of Turkey and Iran. And by the end of the century, it will have more working-age population than the combination of Turkey and Iran. So potentially, the countries who have dominated politics in the region and have had the largest population, the largest militaries, largest economies, will be eclipsed by the Central Asians. Now, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is what happens if we count in Afghanistan, and one might also say Pakistan, but Afghanistan, which still belongs to traditional society, has the extremely high fertility rates of traditional society. Afghanistan's political future is difficult to forecast. The Biden administration's strategic decisions with respect to Afghanistan left an enormous geopolitical hole. And the great danger in Central Asia is that if the economic potential isn't realized and the population is not presented with the opportunities commensurate with its aspirations and education, the result could be political instability. And it's in the interests of all powers to avoid that, which means that the economic development of Central Asia is both an economic imperative, because as a source of skilled labor and highly educated technical personnel, it's unique in the world. It has a unique position between East and West. And at the same time, the risks of failing in that task would lead to geopolitical consequences, which I think none of us would like to see. Now, we have a potential in what's loosely called the Global South, used to be called the Third World, thanks to artificial intelligence and other technologies, which is unique in history. The possibility to upgrade skills and living standards in countries that have lagged behind the industrial world is unprecedented. The reason I mention this is that the great curse of the developing world has been informal employment. Roughly 70% of the 7 billion people in the Global South work off the books, which means that they pretend to pay taxes, the government pretends to give them services, they don't have access to capital, they don't have access to world markets, their communications are poor, their human potential is suppressed. And with the combination of broadband, modern transport, and artificial intelligence, the prospects for rapid formalization of the informal economy and the onboarding of billions of people into the world market and higher levels of productivity is unprecedented. Just as an example, what we find is that when the percentage of broadband users in the population hits about 60%, you get an explosion of business formation. The clever lady in the village who trades better than her neighbors suddenly has access to the world market. She can sell things on Amazon or Alibaba. She can employ people. She can find customers. And once digital payments start to work over broadband, then it's possible to introduce sales taxes. It's possible to track payments. It's possible to know which village trader has the potential to expand a business, and to introduce microcredits. So artificial intelligence plus broadband bring billions of people into global markets and make possible a rapid increase in productivity and living standards. And not only that, the delivery of government services, including healthcare and education, can be multiplied by artificial intelligence. So the economic potential that we have to realize the demographic and educational strengths of Central Asia are unique in history. The only thing comparable is the introduction of railroads and steam power in Europe in the 19th century, which produced such an explosion of productivity. Now, the challenge for the United States is our great competitor, China. One of the greatest shifts, perhaps the most important shift in the world economy in the past decade has been the explosion of Chinese exports to the global south. China now exports about 3 times as much to the global south as it does to the United States. Now, of course, some of that is re-export to the United States, so that's a bit exaggerated. But even so, this is one of the great shifts, and China has quite publicly staked its economic future on its role in developing the global south and making that a principal market, to some extent a captive market. But China's exports to Central Asia have nearly quintupled over the past 10 years. They're still relatively small in the overall profile of China's growth. But the increase is impressive. So from the American standpoint, I would assert that our leadership in artificial intelligence, which is an American invention, and where we still, despite some interesting Chinese advances, have the edge, it's the applications of artificial intelligence which will give us a critical edge in the global south and Central Asia in particular. And with partners like Hungary, I think we'll have entree into that market. I believe the countries of Central Asia are very eager not to become dependent on any of the geopolitical players, but to maintain their flexibility and independence. So I think the United States, despite China's export success of the past 10 years, is still a contender for economic and technological leadership in the global south. So with that, I would like to thank the organizers again and express my confidence that we have one of the great moments in history and an opportunity which it's incumbent upon us to realize, and that in cooperation with our partners, the United States can remain the economic and technological leader in the development of Central Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear David Goldman. It was very, very informative, and indeed the capacity of Central Asian states is growing immensely. And it's not only the population and economics, which is very, very important, but also the same critical minerals that are searched right now globally everywhere. Central Asia is full of them, packed with them, ready to export. And I do believe, and in the second panel we will discover it more as well, how Hungary can play a greater role in connecting the Western economies and Central Asian economies towards achieving this goal. That will be, of course, the greater good for our globe in general. Thank you very much, everyone. These were the opening keynote speeches. Now we will have a bit of extended coffee break. It will be around 25 minutes, and at 11 we will start our panel, and we are waiting for all of you. The coffee break will be in this place. You can take your coffees or drinks just at the exit of the room, but the coffee break will be in this room. Thank you. I would like to ask everyone to come and be seated, please. We are starting the second panel. Welcome, everyone, again. Now we are on the second panel with our distinguished guests and guest experts and also the executive director with us. The topic is Hungary, an opening gate for the US and EU into the Turkic world. We will have on the panel His Excellency Ambassador, congratulations on the new title, by the way, Executive Director of the Representation Office of the OTS in Hungary, Balázs Hendrik. We will have the Executive Director of the Danube Institute, István Kiss. And we will have the Chief Advisor, Senior Research Fellow at the Hungarian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Dr. Vasa László. Thank you very much for coming. Our topic is quite interesting because just as in many of the policies in which Hungary was first, such as the family policy or migration policy in Europe or in the West in general, in Europe particularly, Hungary has also been the first in Eastern opening policy. Hungary saw the potential, and also the regional countries saw the trust in Hungary to build these greater ties with this amazing country within the EU, which has been always protecting its values and culture. The EU itself, just in the early April, has signed this strategic partnership with Central Asia in general as a region. But Hungary has been building those ties for already 15 years with the Eastern opening policy of Balázs Orbán. And it was very remarkable that His Excellency Secretary General Kubánec Beko Moraliev mentioned the words of Viktor Orbán, the Prime Minister of Hungary. We sail under the Western flag with the wind that comes from the East. These were the words that started actually the Eastern opening policy, the greater cooperation with our region. And indeed, Hungary has become the strategic partner with countries of our region for a very long time. And the strategic partnership existed already for a long time with Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and there is negotiations with Turkmenistan as well. They have been raised in the late years towards priority strategic partnership with Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Kyrgyzstan. And I do expect the greater cooperation to grow among us because given that the global attention is now realizing the potential of our region, and Hungary has been the first one, Hungary will continue to play the leading role. And I want to mention here the particular role of Hungary in terms of a trusted partner, because Hungary is not only the country that is interested in sheer economic cooperation, it's also interested in building the value-added production in the region. It's genuinely interested also in enhancing the business and entrepreneurship capacity in our region. The Hungarian companies are very present in the OTS states. And also the Hungarian Development Fund is existing in Kyrgyzstan, which is also helping with the developmental projects in Kyrgyzstan. Hungarian companies, MOL and MVM, are the owners of the shares in Azeri Çıraq Güneşli and Shah Deniz 2 in Azerbaijan, which are the oil and gas fields, respectively. These are the major oil and gas fields which supply the energy security of Central and Eastern Europe. And where the pipeline comes to Hungary as well, along with Italy, but now to Hungary as well. Hungary also helps Kazakhstan. The MOL is very present in Kazakhstan in terms of production of and extraction of oil in cooperation with Kazmunaygas. Hungarian bank, the OTP, is the 5th largest bank in Uzbekistan. So, and also the cooperation in pharmaceuticals, water management, all of this is indispensable. So Hungary truly sees what the region needs, and it does not only try to benefit economically from the region, but also to contribute towards it. Of course, also the Hungaricum scholarship and the quotas, very high quotas for the Turkic states, are additional support and word for that. Now, setting the tone and presenting to you why Hungary is so important, because Hungary is the trusted partner for the Turkic states, and it can play further the bridge role, the keystone role, as Balázs Orbán has described, also in its value towards the Turkic states. Now, I want to give the word to Executive Director of Danube Institute, Mr. István Kiss. Please, I would like to give you the word for remarks.
Thank you, Ibrahim, and I would also like to thank OTS, Balázs, and of course the Secretary General for choosing us as a partner for this event. I think it's very timely, as people have mentioned, and also I think it's crucial to talk much more about the Turkic role and, of course, especially Central Asia. I think it's going to play a very crucial role in the 21st century. David Goldman's presentation, I think, was very interesting in this regard, but I was actually very gladdened to hear that 2 speakers have mentioned Mackinder, who I very much respect as the grandfather of geopolitics. So if you have a geopolitical mindset, which I think a lot of us have here at the Danube Institute, and geopolitical analysis is kind of one of our main areas of research, then you understand that Central Asia and also parts of course, Azerbaijan, Turkey are laying at crucial trade routes and of course have very crucial resources which could benefit greatly Europe. And because of this, I think it's going to be one of the main regions in the 21st century which people should look at. Now, it has also been mentioned that Hungary was perhaps the first in Europe to notice that. I think it's for several reasons, I believe. I mean, one is definitely a deep cultural tie. I mean, of course, we can debate how ethnically or otherwise Turkish Hungary is, but it's certain that a lot of Hungarians do feel similarity with the Turkic world, and also it's very clear that the Turkic world does see Hungary as Turkish, or at least honorary Turkish in a sense. So I think that played a very important role why Hungary recognized the importance of this region, but also I think it was kind of a pragmatism that of course is very good to trade with Europe and America, but it's also important to diversify our trade relationships. And as you mentioned, Ibrahim, so we were one of the first, but it was actually very difficult because we got I mean, part of it was ridicule, of course, that why are you doing this? It just doesn't make sense. And Hungary was ridiculed for joining the Organization of Turkic States as well. But another part of it was sadly actually even kind of damnation or very hostile attitude towards Hungary and its Eastern opening policy, saying that Hungary is just building ties with Russia and China. and is, abandoning its, let's say, Western orientation, which was not the case at all. So Hungary was always very firm that Hungary is a proud member of the European Union and of NATO, and our policies to deepen economic ties with the rest of the world. I mean, there was a southern opening, and I think it's actually, the word I would like to use is global opening or connectivity, which has been used quite recently now by Balázs and the Prime Minister as well. So it's not going against something, it's actually trying to connect the West and the East, and I think Hungary is very well suited to do that. And also, looking at this, of course, China was a very important element. I don't think anybody denies that. But for example, kind of the accusation of Russia was to some extent ridiculous, because trade relationships between Russia and Hungary went down even before the war broke out. So, I mean, a lot of these global opening policies brought in investments from China, but also from South Korea, from Japan, from Southeast Asia, and also our trade relationship with places like Australia and New Zealand have been expanded. We opened an embassy in New Zealand. We opened several embassies in Latin America. So it was really a global opening, unlike what some of our, friends or enemies in Europe were suggesting when we started this policy. So it wasn't easy, but I think the benefits far exceed this criticism and ridicule we sometimes got. And as has been mentioned by some of these speakers, now Europe is playing catch up. So Europe has also luckily recognized the importance of this region and is trying to deepen ties. Now, I had the good fortune to visit Azerbaijan for an event, and also had the privilege to have a very long discussion with the president of Azerbaijan. It was about 30, 40 of us speakers, and there was a very long discussion with him, almost 3 hours. It was really amazing. I mean, I have to say I was really impressed. And also eye-opening, because he was telling several things which I think the Europeans should kind of heed as warnings. One thing is that the importance of Europe is less and less. So he mentioned this, that perhaps 10, 15 years ago, when the European Council made different kind of proclamations, they would have been kind of anxious, but now they care much less. And another thing is that they feel this hostility towards fossil fuels in Europe, so they will be very happy to actually alleviate some of the energy fears we have. So replace some of the lost Russian energy with energy resources from Azerbaijan or Central Asia. They are very keen to actually help us build pipelines, but they feel that the European Union is not interested because they have a very hostile attitude towards fossil fuels. And of course, he was saying, why would I make the investment? Why would I put in a lot of money in investing on building pipelines towards Europe if my investment is not guaranteed? Because Europe might, say, Europe actually is saying this, that they want to be fossil fuel in the near, kind of fossil fuel free in the near future. So why would I make this investment? And I think that was right for him to say that, and I think we in Europe are a bit mistaken that we think that we can go and live without fossil fuels in the near future. I mean, of course, nobody's debating that renewables can be important, but I don't think any serious person can say that in the near future we can replace fossil fuel with renewables. It's just impossible. Perhaps for small countries it is, but even for a country of the size of Hungary, it's just impossible. And of course, we are expanding nuclear power plants. I think that is also something which is kind of downplayed by the European Union by a mistake. I think nuclear energy can be very useful in the future. But also buying fossil fuels from potentially Central Asia and Azerbaijan is also something which Europe should invest more and care more. As I said, there is interest. And then going to the topic of the discussion a bit more, I think there is interest in that region. Of course, Russia and China have been major powers in Central Asia, and I think that's going to stay in the future as well. But to complement that and have a bit more competition, as I said, as Hungary has been trying to do so, not being completely dependent on, let's say, German investments, we started to reach out and got Chinese, South Korean, other investments coming into Hungary. This region is also kind of hungry to get European and, of course, American investments into the region. And I think Hungary can play a crucial role in that. And that's part of the reason we organized this event. And I'm hoping to actually do more, because I think, luckily, Hungary, again, as we realized that Central Asia and the Turkic world is going to play a crucial role, our Prime Minister recognized back in 2016 that the future of America is Trump and not the Democratic Party. And a lot of people, again, thought that he was foolish to do this, but luckily history proved him right. And because of this, we have some form of clout with the current American administration. I think there's a trust which Hungary can build on. And because of being this early adapter and because of our cultural ties, we have the trust of the Turkic countries as well. So I think Hungary can play a very important role in connecting the current administration in the United States and the Turkic world. And I hope that events like this can be a part of it. So I want to do more events where we connect American experts and of course politicians, economic people from the Turkic world. So I hope that this is an event of many, first event of many. And I guess this is my kind of introduction to the topic, but I'm looking forward to any questions and the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is very good opening speech. And indeed, as you mentioned, although there is much accusation from Brussels that Hungary is kind of isolating itself or something, but in fact, Hungary is the most open and connected country in Europe. It has excellent relations with the US. It's supporting the EU enlargement in Balkans. It's the key country towards enlargement in Balkans. It has the least bad relations, in fact, good relations with Russia. It has excellent relations with Turkey and also good relations with China. So it is the most open country in Europe, in European Union. So it's actually weird to accuse Hungary of being the reverse of that. And Hungary is also one of the important participants of the NATO, and it's renewing constantly its missions to NATO. So it's a very trusted partner in the West as well. Now I will give the speech to Professor Dr. Vasha Laszlo for the opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ibrahim. And I am very grateful to the organizers of this high-level forum for my invitation. It is always a pleasure to be among my colleagues and friends from the region and from Hungary who are dealing with these topics. Indeed, it was a real strategic decision by the Hungarian government more than 10 years ago for the opening to the east and later opening to the south, or global opening, I would say, which sounds like a multivectoral foreign policy. And in fact, it is. We can have a discussion on the theoretical background of it, but in fact, we are not limited just to have connections with countries which are in favor of the European Union. And why I'm saying a strategic decision or a strategic step, let's say, because 10 years ago we didn't know, for example, that the importance of the Trans-Caspian transport routes will be so high like nowadays. It was always a kind of alternative of the northern corridor, but we never expected the war in Ukraine and that the northern route will be stuck, and that is why the Trans-Caspian corridor or the middle corridor will gain in importance. We didn't know 10 years ago that the rare earth metals will be so important. Now we can see that there is a run for these resources. not only by America, but also by India, China, and other interested countries. What we could see clearly that the importance of the fossils will lose somehow, but not in that dynamics, let's say, what that time was expected. So indeed, it was a great decision. As I am quite active in the region for the last 20 years, I always told that this eastern opening should be started much earlier, and I not fully agree with the statement that we were the first. Sometimes I say we were the last, because other competitors, let's say competitors from Central Europe, they were already there. Let's say Baltic countries or Poland, even Slovakia to some extent. For sure, first of all in the business. They were active, but I think the pioneer was Austria, by the way, in the time of the Cold War already, and after that, after the changes. But this is a totally different story, how smart Austria trade diplomacy was. But finally we did, and we have an advantage, and we clearly can feel it, even if you are traveling to the region as a tourist. We can feel that people in the region, Central Asia and Caucasus, especially Azerbaijan, but also I would say Turkey, if they hear that you are from Hungary, they will be very happy. And they will immediately tell that, yes, we have a common history, common roots, Kipchaks and others. And it is a really good feeling. And if we can transform it into the business, usually we can't, unfortunately. But this is not the failure of the OTS countries, but it is the failure of our weak small and medium-sized enterprise sector. But we can easily transform it, and we did it in the high politics. Because our government paid several visits to these countries. We have strategic relationship and enhanced strategic relationship with several countries of the OTS group. But what is missing, for sure, how we can make the successes in the business, and how we can make the success stories in the people-to-people connections, which is not so easy because not so close. Okay, Turkey is another issue, but with Central Asia, the connectivity, let's say, is still not so proper. It's not so easy to reach the capitals of Central Asia, but this is nothing new because even within Central Asia, the transportation is not so easy, unfortunately. So this is probably the main challenge of the OTS cooperation, how to improve the connectivity among the countries. And another remarks what I wanted to say, because somehow we should relate to the topic or the title of the. So what kind of role we can have in bringing Central Asia and EU closer? There is an idealistic approach and there is a realistic approach. So the idealistic, that we can play an important role because we have very good connection, and as an EU country, I would say among the EU countries, we have the best relations with the OTS countries and best relations with Central Asia, and I would say best relations even with Azerbaijan. Logically, the EU could use this because most of the EU countries, based on my experiences, they have absolutely no knowledge and information what is really going on in this region. Absolutely not. They admit it, frankly, just among us. So they could use our expertise, our information, our networks, our connections, but here comes the realistic approach, but they don't want. It was very clear the last semester when Hungary was, let's say, the president of the European Union. Several events were organized in Budapest, and in this topic, the most important event was the COEST Working Party meeting. The COEST is the Eastern experts, national experts for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. I would say, with simple words, that this is a body which is giving advice to the Commission how to develop the Central Asia strategy of the European Union. And it was a quite shocking event. As far as I know, for the first time in the history of this working group, they invited experts to it. That was our very good friend and fellow Zoltán Egeresi and myself. And we delivered a presentation there, and I was probably too frank towards these guys in the Brussels bubble, because I made a statement that the European Union is a very good donor without any goals in Central Asia, because the European Union is very proud that spent, I don't know, 1 billion euro on Central Asian projects. But nobody knows what is the main purpose and what is the main goal of these projects. Or if we know, then we are not very happy about that. I mean, those who are accepting it, not very happy about the different, very PC and very fancy European mainstream projects. And just one thing why I am saying that the EU Brussels administration is in a bubble, because when I told that in the last years China was getting the #1 when it comes to trade connections of Central Asian countries in terms of foreign trade, and one of the leaders of this group next to me corrected me. It is not true, because it is the EU. But what is the EU? So the Germans are not competitors of Italians, or Netherlands companies are not competitors of Hungarian companies on that market. Because in China, in case of China or India or Turkey, not. But in case of the European Union, this is just a statistical collection of data. But they really think that the EU is still very important in Central Asia, because no, we are the #1. If we add all the sums of the European Union member countries, then we are the #1. But it doesn't mean anything. So I am not very optimistic that we can do this role as bridge between Europe and Central Asia. I mean, not in terms of these diplomatic or intergovernmental relations, but we can see very positive developments when it comes to the think tank cooperations, academic level cooperations, which are not related to the official governments. I think it can work well. I have no information about the US, but István is an expert of it. But regarding the EU, indeed, we can play a role, but not at the highly official level by now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, now I will ask the questions. I will proceed on the discussion. Indeed, you are very right, dear Dr. Vasha Laszlo, that it was quite actually unexpected for many. It was quite expected for the countries of region, but unexpected for many outsiders of the region to observe that Trans-Caspian route can be revived, and because in 2016, after the oil market, global oil market crashed, the Trans-Caspian route's turnover in terms of volume and value mainly has dropped. And that was the time when mostly the global analysts were pessimistic about it. But the very controversial statistical data was emerging because the countries of the region were actually investing into the expansion of the handling capacity of the ports in Baku port, in Kurik, in Aterau, in Turkmenbashi. So these were the projects that have been done, although the value of the trade has been dropped. And indeed, after the Ukraine war, we saw that the volumes rose. Like it's 2,000%, 800%, depending on the country that we are looking upon. And now the first question that I have is that one of the provisions of the Turkic Vision 2040, adopted by the OTS during the Istanbul summit, and that's the same summit when Turkic Council becomes the Organization of the Turkic States and gains the status of an organization. Was the liberalization of the transportation routes. So what role do you believe Hungary can play in the growing importance of the Trans-Caspian corridor? And this is a question for all three of you, but since His Excellency Balázs Hendrik has not spoken yet, we can start with you.
Hopefully it works. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. It's a great opportunity to represent OTS. I just recently joined the organization, as you are aware, but I think that there are kind of a history of myself also in relation to this topic. So if I may, before answering the question, just a little comment on what the speakers already said. And I don't want to repeat, of course, that the very valuable general comments what we heard, let's say, in the first panel, but focusing on more but the pragmatic way and the practical way how we can really, let's say, move ahead, besides of having a great vision and identifying a huge potential in the cooperation. It's a short story, partly about myself. Of course, I was kind of swapping in between public and private sectors, which is always, let's say, I think it's a great opportunity to learn the other side perspectives as well. And back in 2014, 2013, when there we had a government change, we also had new initiatives how to modify and how to change the approach of foreign policy. And that was the time when Peter Szijjártó became Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And that was the time when basically the whole concept and main role of the ministry has changed and shifted towards facilitating foreign trade and foreign investments. And before this time, I was in the private sector working as a consultant, and I was a member of a team which advised the government, same Orban government, about utilization of the missions outside of Hungary. So it's like 130 plus embassies and consulate generals to use them on spot on the location where they are for a kind of point of sale. So it's like more corporate type, but use them as a voice of Hungarian opportunities, both in export and both in potential investment location. It was a big change compared, let's say, the traditional diplomatic functions, and of course it was a big cultural change within the organization, but it needs to be done. So the takeaway of this message, and it was, as I do consider it still a kind of a novelty within the organization of usual administrations in the foreign ministries and foreign policy institutions. The message here is that we were also a kind of an early initiator of such a new concept to focus on business, which also means that focus on pragmatism, focus on respect, and make real deals, which is also beneficial for both parties, or in cases multilateral parties. And we started, let's say, this organization change parallelly. And I think pretty much, let's say, the same happening within the OTS organization. The organization is growing, the number of tasks are also expanding, the areas of attention, even from the OTS and the member states are, of course, it's also expanding, which allocates more and more fields to listen and to understand towards the OTS organization as well. So it's an increasing pressure on that side. So Parallelly with the visions, we also need to focus on the pragmatical, organizational legwork which needs to be done to be able to perform the visions of our leaders. And I think that we are very much at the OTS facing with this challenge as well. So it's how we can really serve the member states in the most effective way when they can also, let's say, be a winner, gain more out of, let's say, this cooperation. When we can really, let's say, facilitate more or like in a project management approach, when we can really facilitate the cooperation, facilitate, let's say, the talks and actions between each other. And I think Hungary has a role like this. So we can put these kind of new initiatives on the table, we can facilitate it, and try to create a kind of a sandbox for proof of concept. Okay, so and I think back to this story what I just said, changing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to Ministry of Foreign Affairs Trade. In the Hungarian version, even let's say the trade comes first, so it's like külgazdaság and külügyminisztérium. I think that's now a common understanding within the whole diplomatic functions. All ambassadors and all consul generals consider this number one priority, let's say, to chase potential opportunities for our country, which is, of course, can tie it back to national interest, because this is the interest of the Hungarian people. So back to the OTS function. That's why we are dropping into the cooperation, different initiatives, and try to, let's say, create a proof of concept around it. Maybe not all of them will be successful, but definitely, let's say, worth to try. And I think that my role is coming, let's say, a little bit, let's say, from different domains. This is it, and this will be the role of the Budapest office, one and only office of OTS outside the OTS countries, headquartered in Istanbul. Basically, I was working with them back at my consul general times in Istanbul. So that I see where this organization, the Turkic Council level, more cultural cooperation talks has started, and where are we now? Even, let's say, I made, of course, a couple of loops outside. But back to your question, Middle Corridor is also a great vision. Also, of course, it was, as you said, long time on the table. It's a vision. There are, of course, a lot of reality bottlenecks need to be overcome. Legislations, countries, borders, routes, infrastructure. So it's a lot of things, let's say, around it. Of course, it's a huge investment. But I would take parallelly the OBOR concept of China. So it's like also it's a great initiative, a vision, when partners who are interested in can really, let's say, be part, try to identify their role in it. And I think Middle Corridor is a great multilateral initiative which can be easily connected to, for example, for such China initiatives as well. So I think countries needs to be done a lot of things, let's say, on their table to be able to perform the Middle Corridor vision. But OTS can really, let's say, facilitate these talks. Minister of Transportation, Minister of Energy, Minister of Infrastructure, they should change ideas, not only, let's say, on the bilateral level, but also on the multilateral level. Because that can create really a platform of respect, mutual trust, and by the end of the day, helping each other to be able to perform this vision. Because, I mean, especially in infrastructure developments, funding and interconnectivity is always a great bottleneck about, let's say, the timing of the performance of such a project. And when people and countries talk and the authorities are talking to each other and clarify, let's say, even the bottlenecks, then that definitely, let's say, can decrease this lead time to have a solution. So I think OTS will play a key role in facilitation of talks and cooperation in the Middle Corridor vision. But of course, as you said, I mean, liberalization of transit rules, that's a great initiative as well. But in the practical terms, it's of course a huge headache for many reasons. Protection of, let's say, our own transportation industry, protection of, let's say, different, border crossing and security. So there are quite a number of challenges, but I think main important thing is that we should put these challenges onto the table and start clear them out.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your opinion. And also for the personal experience that is a really great value added. Thank you very much. Perhaps if you have some thoughts on the Trans-Caspian route and the Turkic vision.
Yes, thank you. On the map which was displayed in the last, let's say, presentation speech, we also could clearly see that Hungary is on the map when it comes to the Middle Corridor developments. I mean, I wouldn't say that these developments are made in Hungary because of the Middle Corridor, but these developments can serve the purposes of this whole transportation structure. and just giving a highlight of it, and I'm not sure you remember that map, but when it comes to Central Asia, there are 3 alternative routes. 2 are via Kazakhstan, 1, the southern one, via Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. The European Union decided to support the middle one, which is leading via southern Kazakhstan. It is meaning that this mentioned 12 billion, or better said 10 million, because 2 billions are on the rare earth mining issues, and that 10 billion was already promised 1 year ago in Brussels on the investment forum in last year February. But it is meaning that these developments will focus on the southern route, which is benefiting for sure Kazakhstan in this way. But the bottleneck, the first bottleneck is Azerbaijan, Baku, because this is the only way. While in Central Asia we can see 3 alternative routes, but in the Caucasus there is only 1. And there is a potential other one which is called the Zangezur corridor. But until the peace agreement is not signed between Azerbaijan and Armenia, it seems to be quite difficult to develop this Zangezur corridor, which is physically on the border of Armenia and Iran, but would connect not only Nakhichevan with the main territories of Azerbaijan, but also would mean the first mainland route of or connection of Turkey to the Turkish world. And the other very important hub, for sure, Turkey is essential nowadays because the Black Sea cannot be used properly for Middle Corridor purposes. Originally, the Middle Corridor or this Trans-Caspian route would mean not only the Caspian Sea, or sometimes I say Caspian Lake, but also the Black Sea. Obviously, nowadays the Black Sea is not safe for transportation, but the original route maps would show the sea routes from Batumi to Odessa, Constanza, Varna, and Istanbul as well. But right now, under the nowadays circumstances, the mainland routes are preferred via Turkey, and then we are in Europe via the Balkan and reaching Hungary. Why Hungary is important? Because Hungary is the first optimal solution for the logistics to distribute the goods. It is not a coincidence that even for China, Budapest is getting to be one of the main cargo hubs. Okay, it is air transportation, but interestingly, the cargo shipments, air cargo shipments, are coming also from the Caucasus. because Azerbaijan was smart enough to establish its quite good cargo company and taking part in this process. But which is more interesting for us, the railway connections and the road connections. And in this regard, it is a quite interesting development in the story. The Budapest-Belgrade Railway, which was not supported by the European Union from the cohesion funds. That is why it was needed for looking for a foreign creditor, let's say, and that is why China took the opportunity to provide a loan and capacities to develop it. It will be ready, I think, end of this year or at latest early next year, and will be one of the most important part of the Middle Corridor's European section. And once again, this is a quite intensively criticized project, why we need it, why China built it, and so on. But at the end of the day, it is very clear that it will have a very important role in the transportation of the goods from the east to the west and from the west to the east. And Hungary can provide an excellent location for any companies to provide logistical service and so on. I think it is not a secret, but even Kazakh companies are interested in investments in the logistic infrastructure of Hungary. So it is a very good and clear sign that Hungary is not just important for Chinese, South Korean, American, and Western European companies for these logistic services and redistribution services, but also for the Central Eurasian companies and countries. So all in all, a long story short, Hungary can utilize finally its very good location in the heart of Europe, where the east-west and north-south road and railway connections meet each other, and it is up to us how we can utilize it. Not just bringing the wares and the containers through the country, but how we can stop it and how we can provide the added value with the help of different activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And also, if you have any thoughts on this, I would expect, or I can pass to
just short reflections. I mean, the two gentlemen are much bigger experts on this than I am, so I was just trying to emphasize, I think, which Rodi said here, is that Hungary historically and geographically is in a great location to be a gateway to the European Union. Europe generally, but of course for European Union, especially because we are the border nation of the European Union. So if somebody wants to come to Europe, especially through land routes from the Balkans, then Hungary is crucial. You have to go through Hungary, basically. And also because labor costs are still lower, we have a fairly educated workforce, our infrastructure is fairly good, we have very good infrastructure connections to Western Europe. It makes sense not just, of course, for Central Asia, but for China, for other countries in Eastern Asia, India, to see Hungary as a hub where they can make investments and basically be part of the European common market. So build businesses here, build investments here, and then you can use that as a launching port to access the EU market as well. I think that's something which Hungary has been trying to do and has been fairly successful. But also I think there's been a lot of investments which was mentioned with the Belgrade Railway, but with other parts as well. Hungary in the past 15 years really renovated its infrastructure very heavily. Meaning railways and of course highways as well, but also I think we have been putting a lot of effort to be a logistic hub as well, generally speaking, so helping companies to actually store things here in Hungary logistically. So I think Hungary in this sense can play a very crucial role, as was mentioned by the two gentlemen before me as well, in connecting And as I said, not just Central Asia, but China, India, the Gulf countries as well. There are several different projects ongoing. One, of course, is the Middle Corridor, but you have IMEC. We will have a conference on IMEC, I think 2 weeks from now. So there's several kind of different, sometimes perhaps competing, but I think in the end, actually, that's a healthy competition of bringing more and more goods from Asia to Europe. And Hungary, because of its location and because of its policies and, of course, historic ties, is at a crucial point to help facilitate that trade.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sorry. I know that you have plenty of questions, but just one more thing related to logistics. And this is a different aspect, also a slightly personal story as well. So just recently I was working for the Ministry of Defense, especially, let's say, focusing on dual-use things. And, for example, resilience and the somehow protecting that supply chain is, of course, it's a crucial topic based on back to COVID times when, of course, that all, let's say, this transportation supply chain networks was broken in a couple of days, right? And then there were no way to find container capacities to transfer goods, let's say, to Europe for the production facilities. So, true, Hungary has a great opportunity to, be a hub for production, manufacturing, value-added production, but that needs a very strong and very solid supply chain. So that's why, back to your first question related Middle Corridor. So get closer to supply chain, so shortening the supply chain, not just time-wise, but geographically as well. And that's also one of, let's say, the trigger why, for example, Hungary can play a crucial role, but also a great support for such initiatives.
Thank you very much. That's really insightful in terms of the supply chain as well. Not only both routes and also the time-wise, the shortening of it. I think the other question that I will go with is the topic of quite concern of these days. And one of the things that we, and also Professor Vasha Laszlo said, that how we can monetize this partnership. Well, rare earth minerals, they questioned the issue of big concern of current geopolitics. The rare earth minerals that everyone is competing globally for the greater share of. Central Asia and in general the OTS countries, they are very rich with those rare earth minerals. And here's the question. Rare earth minerals are playing an increasing important role in today's global geopolitical landscape, a fact that has drawn attention from both the Trump administration in the US and the European Union. How can Hungary attract Western interests and become itself involved in extraction of rare earth minerals from the resource-rich Turkic states? And what role can OTS play in facilitating this further? That's open question for it.
Yes, it's a $1 million question. I don't know the answer, sorry for that. What I see, of course, these kind of topics are very crucial, but heavily capital-intensive stuff. So that I think that one of, let's say, the main topic around this question, that who is able to invest for the exploration of these earth minerals, and who can really, let's say, take them out from the ground. Hungary, as a role, facilitating, try to, let's say, approach multilateral financial institutions to support it, creating like a hub as a corporate location, as a member states of the EU and member states of the NATO, which of course can create like a credible financial vehicle for such investments. But I mean, in general, that this whole mining industry globally is a definitely different league compared, let's say, to Hungarian capacities.
Thank you very much.
Yes, when it comes to Hungary, what we can offer is just the general business environment, I think, because in technologies, in the medieval we were like number one when it comes to mining, especially gold and silver. But the great times are over, and that time, even that time, the profit was not left in the country. This was the sounds like nowadays capitalism. I'm sure that we have some very special technologies in some startups, but I wouldn't think that Hungary is a player in the mining technologies. If we look at the OTS countries, that's a good question, because in this case it is going about how, to some extent, the exploitation somehow, how the OTS countries can cooperate or can create the common capital, let's say investment fund, and how they can develop the proper, or at least buy the proper technologies to utilize the raw materials on site. Because what we can see, most of these metals and other natural resources, usually minerals, are mined and sold, and no processing in the country. That is why it's a good example. It's not to the narrow group of the rare metals, but the uranium. You can support or oppose the nuclear technologies, but if we just look at pure economically and with a systematic approach. In case of Kazakhstan, which owns the second largest reserve for uranium, and by now the first nuclear power plant is in planning process, but it was not realized in the past decades, which would be basically of use to do it. And I was very happy to hear that finally the thinking at least started, and I think already the planning process, it will be built, and also the referendum was made, and the citizens were asked about it, and I know very well that there was a very sensitive approach towards the nuclear power in Kazakhstan, where several testings were made about Semipalatinsk region, and very serious environmental damages occurred. But when it comes to the economic thinking, why not to build a nuclear power plant if we have the world largest or second largest reserve on uranium? It's not so simple for sure. Very, very complicated and very complex technologies, and we have to process the uranium and so on, but at least the added value will be much, much higher, and the country will be able to produce power even for export, because the power, electric power, is very much needed in the region. And those countries which are having water energy, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, they are in a somewhat better position. But the largest economies in Central Asia, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, they are very much relying on the fossil and other sources for power. And in addition, it is, but it will be another question, so I don't want to talk about more about the energies. But that was just an example how we can utilize our own resources, because it is always the worst business just to export our raw materials, like the oil, exporting crude oil and buying back the refined fuel from abroad. So yes, but these countries are on the right track already, and the different equipments already started. What I wanted to say that the OTS could play, and the OTS cooperation could play, because I'm sure that Turkey has much more technologies on these mining afterwards processing issues than, let's say, Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you.
Well, agreeing with the two others, I don't really know of big Hungarian mining companies, sadly, which could benefit. It would be nice, but sadly, we don't really have a lot of minerals in Hungary anymore. I think parts where we have much more expertise is, of course, oil and gas, and as you mentioned, MOL has been and MVM has been active in the region, and I think there's a lot of benefit and potential there. I think another thing is water management, where Hungary has an expertise which can help the region. Regarding rare earth materials, I think, as was mentioned by Balázs, I think Hungary can be kind of an interlocutor. So Hungary can be a place where some of the economic interests meet. And I think OTS has a role in that as well. So I'm hoping that I'm not kind of showing my cards too early, but we have been talking a bit about perhaps doing kind of a think tank exchange share between the different think tanks of the OTS members. And I think something like that could potentially be done in the economic field as well, where you would have more businesses coming together from the region. And Hungary, I think, could help in putting some of these European and, of course, American companies to the table as well. Budapest could be a very good location to have that talks, but of course, we don't want to be greedy. I think other places could be good as well. But I think this is kind of the added benefit. If I'm just looking at the rare earth materials, Hungary can play is to be a place where the different players meet and where we open the door to Central Asia, to some of these European American companies and vice versa. So I think that's something we can play a role in, and I think potentially OTS as an umbrella organization can play a role as well.
Thank you very much. Indeed, yeah, Hungary's major role, and I believe so as well, can be its linking potential and becoming a stage for these talks actually towards bringing capital to the region and resources from the region to the greater capital markets. And Hungary has done a great job in terms of presenting itself as such important actor. Now, another issue or the question that of many people's concern is, well, OTS is the organization where there are 3 member states which are keystone states, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, plus 1 observer state, which is a keystone state, Hungary. And we know that keystone states are very important for mediation or for the meeting point between the greater powers that usually don't want to directly confront each other. It's also a very good point towards greater facilitation of connection or investment. As such, Hungary is doing a great job. So here's the question. So since its establishment in 2009 with the Nakhchivan Agreement in Azerbaijan, the OTS has significantly evolved, taking on broader responsibilities. In light of growing multipolarity and complexity, because we see greater saturation in global geopolitics, what meaningful role do you believe the OTS can play, such as peace mediation by member states, which are keystone, observer state, which is a keystone state, humanitarian aid or investment initiatives?
I will start now then. Well, I think one thing which, I'm not sure if this is really the question, but I will still talk about it, is, as you mentioned, the aid system and kind of the revamping of the aid system. You can see that the current American administration pulled the plug on USAID, and kind of how we saw the international aid system work has been now pulled the plug on. And I think there is potential to kind of create a new version of that, a more kind of national conservative way, or I'm not sure how to call it, which would serve more economic interests of America and, of course, Europe as well generally. And I think Hungary can play an interesting role in that, and that's something which actually on long term we're passionate about to talk more. Hungary has the Hungary Helps program, which was originally established to help persecuted Christians, and of course it still is a very main goal of that program, but also it's helping other communities as well. And the whole idea behind that was to bring help to local communities, and it's bypassing sometimes governments because they try to bring the help where it's most needed, but also it's giving things which people actually need, sometimes critical infrastructure. So it's building hospitals, schools, churches, community places, rebuilding wells. So it's a program which actually does help those communities and makes a difference. And I think that's a very stark contrast to a lot of the US aid policies, and also sadly a lot of the European Union aid policies, which have very lofty goals, but sometimes are supporting progressive ideologies and giving money to projects which not necessarily benefit those local countries. Some of it is actually wasted. There's sadly a lot of corruption, but also a lot of it is based. I mean, we heard a lot of these stories. I mean, even if half of it is true, it's already bad. But we do know that they have been putting money in supporting LGBTQ issues, transsexual issues, other things, which I'm not sure was kind of the biggest problem in Lesotho or Africa or other parts. And sadly, that's a problem with the European aid system as well, that a lot of them is earmarked to these programs, which, this could be a debate, but I think in the end, sadly, don't really benefit most of the population of these countries. And I think that's why Hungary can play this role, where we share our experiences with Hungary Helps with America, but potentially with OTS as well, and be this build kind of a new aid system, which would focus much more on actually pragmatic things, so things which are in interest of the European member states themselves, help better investment, but also which benefit, countries of Central Asia as well, but potentially, of course, globally other countries as well, where we would focus on alleviating some of the reasons behind, for example, migration. So if you rebuild these places and give them, hospitals, schools, better access to infrastructure, then you can hope that these people will be less willing to leave and try to come to Europe, for example, or of course America. So I think I see a big potential in kind of this aid reshuffle, where I think Hungary can play an important role and an interesting kind of example with its own Hungary Helps policy. I'm not sure if anybody would like to.
A couple of thoughts around it. One, that OTS, of course, is not independent in the sense that we, of course, serving member state requirements. Okay, so if member states agrees on such initiatives that OTS should play a role like in creating a platform in that particular area, then of course most probably, let's say, it will happen. So what we can do and what we do in many other areas is that creating a platform to share best practices. So for example, what is already mentioned, this is what I want to say as well, that Hungary Helps or TICA activities. There's a lot of things has been done on a bilateral or country level. So creating a platform where these best practices can be shared, I think it's a natural match, natural role for OTS. A bit similar thing, how OTS and this multilateral cooperation can play a role in such things like our Drought Prevention Institute, which is, of course, it's also a unique initiative, but this can also, let's say, collect donors from many countries, not necessarily only from the member states, but the surrounding, because that's very much related to agriculture, the effectivity and the opportunities of agriculture, also related to the healthcare, also related to water treatment. So it's a lot of things. It's a huge domain, and an OTS has such an institution which can be, of course, utilized and utilize different funds from potential donors. So that's, I mean, similar, but it's kind of an analog approach, let's say, for that one. And of course, as you mentioned, investment-related initiatives. I think it's also every member state it's working very hard, let's say, to go global and approach potential investors towards the countries. In certain areas, maybe it makes sense, let's say, also to share the ideas and share the potential as well, and you know, promote ourselves as a much more bigger piece of a bigger cake to be exported for potential global investors.
Thank you.
I agree with Balázs that all these things, how to contribute to these activities like peacekeeping and helping other nations, it depends on the level of institutionalization of the OTS. There are discussions about a stronger cooperation in the field of defense and security. Quite sensitive question, but very logical, because this region itself is in a very turbulent region, macro region, like China, Russia, and then Afghanistan issue, and Iran, and other, and then the conflicts in the Caucasus. So the different member states have good practices, like in peacekeeping. Kazakhstan is quite active, and also Hungary. But which should be solved, or how to say, for what the OTS is already probably now or nowadays would be a good tool how to solve the conflicts among us. Because we know very well that sometimes there are low-level conflicts on different border regions. There are conflicts between different nationalities and so on. So the OTS is a tool itself how to moderate these conflicts. And even just recently there were some conflicts, and I'm not meaning the riots in Kazakhstan, but also when it comes to defense and security, probably not a very much PC statement or question, but what if in 2022 January, not the CSTO is making an intervention in Kazakhstan? Who would be the next? China, OTS, to go there and to make the order and peaceful environment. So it's a good question, but the OTS itself, I think, is not really organized in that manner. But for sure, everything is possible. But I think first the institutionalization should come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't want to be greedy with questions, so I will give the floor to the audience to raising the additional questions that can be to the interest of any of you. Yeah, dear Miss Melissa, the first question will come from you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a great conversation. My question is regarding mining engineers. There's a concern in the U.S., Canada, and Australia that the number of mining engineers is going to shrink by half shortly. What's the status of mining engineers in Central Asia? What is the status of education for them? What's the status of education for mining engineers in Hungary? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this amazing question. Anyone willing?
I try to answer it as I have something to do with the university sphere. I am not an engineer myself, but the main expertise in the higher education for mining is in Miskolc, University of Miskolc. They still have, I think, the mining faculty. We don't really have mines anymore, but at least we have engineers. They are quite good in it, and for sure they are already because originally the Miskolc University was let's say the mining university. May you know that in the time of the socialism we introduced the Soviet style, very professionalized university system. So we had a university for heavy chemistry, and we had a university for textile industry, and we had university for telecommunication and so on. So what you can still see in some of the Central Asian countries that the same we had. But after the changes, the Hungarian government decided to create the real universities with several faculties, and now one of the faculties of the Miskolc University is the mining faculty. And yes, they still cover this field, but I don't know about the numbers of the mining engineers, but I don't think that it would be more than, let's say, 50 or a maximum 100 in a year. Why? They are quite demanded, because mining not just meaning mine metals or others, but also the oil and gas exploitation, and for that even our industry has some demands, and I am almost sure that these engineers are more specialized on these fossil issues, and they are demanded by our national oil company, or we have even in Hungary we have a lot of American and even Canadian companies who are looking for potential gas and oil fields, not only the mole, but other concessions we have here. So,
thank you. Okay, so we will proceed with the next question. Yeah, gentleman in the front. And
Thank you very much. Özkan Duman, Deputy Head of Mission, Turkish Embassy. Thank you very much, Ibrahim. When you were setting the scene for this discussion, you have provided a lot of examples, concrete examples, of growing partnership between the OTS countries and Hungary. I felt a little bit of injustice done to Turkey in that regard, but especially having recently commemorated the centenary of the diplomatic relations, and also upgrading the relationship to the level of enhanced strategic partnership. But as the host country of the OTS as well, sometimes we are used to being, let's say, taken for granted, but that's okay. Regarding the questions, first question to Mr. Laszlo Vasha, you put it very eloquently that Hungary has the most connections with Central Asia in the OTS regions. You have the expertise, you have the roots in the region. So on the paper, normally under ideal circumstances, the EU should maybe look up to Hungary to tap onto this. But it doesn't happen. Why do you think that it doesn't happen? Is it because of the tension between the EU and Hungary, because of other reasons? Is it because the EU doesn't really believe in the potential of the region? Or is it because that this is the way the EU bureaucracy works? So this is the question to you. And another question to Mr. Hendry, as the new Executive Director of the Representation Office. You put it very nicely, the transformation in the Hungarian foreign policy, the ministry, and also the transformation in the OTS, from the Turkic Council, capitalizing on shared culture, to translate this into specific, concrete partnership schemes. And Turkey is trying to enhance this and deepen this collaboration in as many sectors, as many fields as possible, and with the contribution from the other member states and the observers as well. And Hungary is doing great as well. The Secretary General mentioned only this week we have seen 2 or 3 OTS events happening in Budapest. How can we do more in terms of onboarding more sectors, more government departments, and more people from across different walks of life into OTS cooperation schemes? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. My apologies, I never take Turkey for granted. Turkey is an amazing supporting country of OTS and one of the major members, always in our hearts.
Yes, thank you for your question. I think this is the way how the bureaucracy is thinking. This is the first obstacle. And because of this, now how to say, the appreciation of Hungary by the Brussels bureaucracy is not very high. So even if we could be useful, they won't use us for this purpose because they don't like us. It is not rational, I know, but we can really see and experience this in any other affairs as well. How to say, we can live very well without them in this regard. So we clearly see what we want to have and how we want to have in Central Asia. But if you see or check the Central Asia strategy of the European Union, it is hard to say what the European Union really wants. We know what France wants, or probably Germany, but in this letter I am not sure clearly. We also know more or less what, let's say, Poland wants in the region, for sure business. But at EU level, nobody thinking about whether these values, let's say values, European values, are needed in this region. And this is the very base and very basic issue that the EU wants to sell or to promote values which are not demanded in the region. But back to your question. Yes, I think it is just the very typical Brussels style thinking of the bureaucracy, but the first problem is that they really think that they know everything better than us. And I'm telling it to you while, I don't say names, but different diplomats from the Budapest community are approaching us at the institute, especially me, if they want to know more about the region. But I am telling you more, even Japanese diplomats are approaching us to learn more on the region. And I helped several Japanese colleagues with connections and networks in the Central Asian region because they just not have. Even not with the help of their embassies and consulate generals. But the next problem is that they even don't want to have any good connection with any think tanks or others. So, like this.
Even though it was not my question, just a comment on this EU stuff. I think they should not necessarily like us, okay? It's not a demand. They should just respect and listen. So that would be more than enough, because I think that the initiatives, what we are putting on the table, it's for debate, okay? So I mean that we are happy, let's say, talk about it, and I think that that's the most important thing, openly talk and keep, let's say, communication channels, and respected parties should communicate about topics. So, and I think in the mid-run, even not in the long run, they also consider that we were right. And, and as we see the trend now from EU administration, they are shifting also, let's say, toward the Central Asian region. Okay, so they are a little bit latecomer as a Brussels EU level of organization. Maybe, of course, that there are a lot of relations already on the bilateral level, but as a multilateral organization, of course, it's quite new for them. But of course, I mean, we will always support these initiatives, and we definitely, let's say, stick to that we consider as a very important and strategic region and natural ally for European growth and development. We will see. Back to my question, what should we do? I think it's more relevant. And I think that how we can enhance and how we can, let's say, grow the value and the operation of OTS is we have to push it from the government to government, so G2G levels, down to, let's say, to the C2C, B2B, so people to people business, business to business talks. So when these layers, these networks are start, let's say, talking to each other, they will definitely, let's say, figure out on that particular level they talk what could be beneficial for both of them. So, and that's why I really like those initiatives we are already, I mean, even before my arrival, OTS has figured out to deal with. And I just would mention two of them. I already mentioned the Drought Institute is a special area, but there are two more general initiatives, organization, by the way. One of them is the Turkic Investment Fund. I think creating a venture capital fund equally, you know, with 6 founders, of course, the 5 member states plus Hungary is also, let's say, chipped in. I think that it's a great thing because it will talk about sustainable business plans, cooperation between the countries, creating a business, and then, of course, Turkic Investment Fund can be a facilitator, an investor into this. I think it's a great thing. And, of course, this is 6 times $100 million, so it will gradually, let's say, feed it up. But I think the ambition is really, let's say, that this fund should be in eye level to, for example, EIB, European Investment Bank, and European Investment Fund, EIF, EIB. So creating a supranational investment vehicle, I think it's crucial. The second one, which of course is more related to the origination, it's the cooperation between the Chamber of Commerces. We have here in Hungary a new leadership in the Hungarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They are very much eager to get into this cooperation with the other partner Chamber of Commerces in the member states. You also mentioned that, I mean, every week is something happening related to OTS in Budapest. That's also coming, let's say, in May, when the Hungarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry will officially, let's say, join the TCCI, that's the cooperation between the Chamber of Commerces. And even, as far as I know, that they consider to have within the Chamber of Commerce and Industry a specific platform for OTS cooperations. Not bilateral chambers like Hungarian, Turkic, Hungarian, Turkish, Hungarian, Azeri, but more like this multilateral. So mirroring, let's say, the G2G organization into the business organization. And then third one, of course, we mentioned Stipendium Hungaricum. All initiatives which is related to mobilization of students and scholars, I think it's full support from Hungary. So there are, of course, quite a number of bilateral cooperations, you know, like Kyrgyz, Turkish University, but we can also, let's say, create, there is also the Turkic Academy platform, but I think that creating the institutions for this, so really, let's say, put scholars and also, let's say, acquire students into it and rotate them within our member states, I think that could create, let's say, the next generation of OTS supporters.
Thank you very much. We are going over time here, so I will ask just one very short last question. Yeah, lady in the front. And with that, we will close the panel.
Hello again. Thank you, Köszönöm, and how we say in the Turkic world, teşekkür ederim for this amazing panel talks. I will have a very general question, and it is more about your opinion or comments. In what way can Hungary, as a European Union member and as OTS observer, contribute to the institutionalization and practical realization of the Turkic World Vision Project 2040? So it will be great to hear a few comments on this.
Yes, so...
Ibrahim, you have a competition here, so it's another panel. Okay, so I think that the 2040 vision is, of course, it's a it's a great strategic vision of the OTS countries. Hungary is an observer, so we will definitely, let's say, support the member state actions towards that. What we can do, of course, take into consideration our capacities, that we will highlight a couple of, let's say, the strategic actions we would like to focus on, and we would like to dig deep into it. And this is how I think that we can really, let's say, bring results to the table, to the OTS joint table, that we should really, let's say, focus on those areas where we can really, let's say, take tangible results. So, which is in that particular time frame. 2040 is, of course, it seems to be very far, but I mean, that's in a strategic perspective, it's not that far. So, in certain areas, we have to really do the legwork, and I think Hungary can also, let's say, support the OTS on that field.
There are some good practices to share, and what we have here in Central Europe is a cooperation of like-minded countries. I mean, it depends on the actual politics, but based on the history and heritage, like the Visegrad cooperation, which is a fully informal cooperation, but there is absolutely no institution in behind. I mean, no cooperation body and nothing, no general secretary. But there is one sole institution which is called the International Visegrad Fund. Why I am telling you this? Because it seems to be a quite successful tool to provide microgrants for people-to-people connections, and it is not a big amount of money. And worth to consider for the OTS to create a fund to support the connection in the society, small cultural, educational cooperation grants, which could help a lot for a small community to get in touch with another community in another OTS member country. So probably it could help a lot, at least for the acceptance of this whole idea. And I am sure that these really micro sources could be utilized at a very high level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one comment. I have to promote here another Turkic organization, Turksoy. So this is basically quite highly supporting this kind of small cultural and educational events in the member states and including observers.
Thank you. And okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for coming for today's event. This marks the end of it. A round of applause, please, for His Excellency Balázs Hendrik, for Dr. Vasha Laszlo, and for our Executive Director, István Kiss.